Hey Outlanders! We are going to do a recap of what happened with 2022. Now, as you may remember, we published a video at the start of the year detailing what would you be able to look forward to this year with 2022. So this time around, we will be discussing what has changed in 2022 with our colleagues or developers, and we'll jump into the nitty-gritty of how it went. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, Pirate, thank you for joining us today. As a producer, could you perhaps give us some insight on how this year went, mostly about Battle Pass seasons, since we only released 3 this time? So could you perhaps explain the intention behind that and how it went?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as you already said, we decided to scale it down a bit with the major updates that are usually accompanied by the seasons. The reason is pretty simple. We already tried to push out as much stuff as possible, also with the minor ones, so the scale down was only the next step towards that. When it comes to the seasons, the major updates that we released, I believe that first one was Vigor Chronicles Perseverance. Perseverance came out in February, and I think that one of the major features was Kirsten as an encounter map. So originally we released Kirsten only as shootout arena, so it was really exciting for us to finally push out the whole map. That was absolutely amazing. And other than that, as usual, we introduced new consumable and weapon. This time around it was the improvised mine and new shotgun, Remy. And the whole Battle Pass was kind of this like Viking theme, sort of, which I believe the players were pretty divided when it comes to that. Some like it, some hate it, but overall, in my opinion, it was a really nice update. And this was also the first update where we really kickstarted some of the weapon changes that we wanted to do during the year of 2022, basically.
All right, so thank you for walking us through that first update. As for the next ones, the remaining 2, could you briefly slide upon the themes that we decided to tackle with them?
Yes, absolutely. So I believe that the next one was Vigor Chronicles Absolution. And this has kind of this like wintry theme, and the whole lore that was also introduced in the cassettes is around this group of scientists. And to be completely honest, this was one of the best trailers that we ever released. I absolutely love it. Now, when it comes to the features, for example, Fiske Fabric made its comeback as a elimination map. This was super exciting for the team because honestly, this was the time when players were really asking us to introduce something new to the elimination game mode. So introducing a new map was super awesome, but then we also changed a bunch of other stuff regarding this game mode. So I think that Absolution was really the update that shaped elimination into the state that you can currently see it in.
All right, thank you for telling us about that. And the last one, the most recent one that we had towards the end of the year, which is Chronicles Deliverance, also military themed, but could you also tell us a bit more about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Deliverance, it's still fresh in my brain because it came out just in September. It was a huge update for us, but this was also the first time when we decided to skip cassettes because we didn't really have much time for the lore. But what was more exciting is that we had the chance to do collaboration with our other games. So even in the Battle Pass, you can see multiple customizations that are inspired by Armory Forger, for example. We also released a premium pack that is inspired by DayZ, so the Yellow King was absolutely awesome. I love the helmet. Then apart from the usual stuff, as for example, Berry, or the adrenaline shot, we also introduced one other thing that is not as exciting for players that already have been with us for a long time, but it's still a huge thing for us, and it's new onboarding. Basically, we knew that our tutorial, but also the onboarding sequence, needs a huge amount of love, and we did exactly that.
All right, thank you for tackling that. Our other colleagues will be talking more about the onboarding sequence and the tutorial as well. So Zora, now that we have you here, I'd like you to talk about what we delivered this year, because we promised that we would bring out something new every month. So could you walk us through what we've done? Like, could you give us some examples, please?
Yes, of course, and I'm really glad that I can say that we have fulfilled that promise. Besides of the major and minor updates, which there were 6 of them, we also focused more on the bigger holidays and important events such as St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Memorial Day. Then we also created some assets for our summer. Then there was a tomato fight for our anniversary and also the Tomatina holidays. We also created many assets for our Halloween and of course the Christmas. And there were many booster apocalypses during the whole year. So I really don't want to reveal anything yet, but you should definitely look forward for the next year.
All right, that's definitely something our players should keep an eye out for then. Yeah. Thank you so much for telling us what we did every month, Zora.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Philip. So this year we also focused on the onboarding experience for players, and a part of that was a tutorial. So could you perhaps walk us through a little bit more about what happened with the tutorial? What changes were made thanks to you and the tutorial?
Yeah, sure. Well, the tutorial was changed in order to offer the brand new players more of an overview of what can happen in the game. And the changes were aimed at the new players. And we added some stuff. Not reordered, but we tweaked some stuff and to be more beneficial for the brand new players.
All right, and aside from the tutorial changes, well, within the tutorial changes, we also implemented AI, is that right? Could you perhaps go a bit more in depth into that?
Sure. The AI was implemented to simulate the real encounters that the player would experience in the Outlands in the airdrop mode. And of course, it's not that difficult as players would be, but it offers some kind of dynamic overview of what the encounter would look like. So the AI should be a certain challenge for the player, but not that much. So he can try out different tactics, different approach to the encounters, and with those changes, there are also some checkpoints. So you don't have to be afraid of dying in the tutorial, seeing how it goes.
Okay, that's wonderful that there are checkpoints there. I would be scared to die. But aside from these checkpoints in the tutorial, I believe that there have been new events added as well to the tutorial, right?
There are a couple of more changes. We added more weapons for the players to try out in the tutorial. We added some shooting range, closer to the start, so you can get the hang of the shooting mechanic right from the start. And we added new dialogues, we added new consumable in the tutorial, and a couple of new weapons, so you can try more stuff out.
All right, thank you so much for diving into that with us, Philip.
You're welcome.
So, Sebi, we also talked about the new changes regarding the tutorial, but now I want to speak with you about the onboarding in general. This means the new pop-ups. Could you walk us through that, please?
Yes. So we wanted to make it easier for new players to get into Vigor, to onboard. So we did several changes. One of them is we rewrote all the starting pop-ups because there was a lot of text. There were like 2 or 3 screens of text sometimes. So we scaled it down to just one pop-up per page. What we also do after you go through the tutorial, we funnel you into Encounter right away, so you get a taste of the core experience of Vigor. And after that, we gradually unlock the shelter menu tabs for you when they become relevant. So we start with the stash, and then we move on to the shelter building and stuff like that later on. So we, not to overwhelm the new player with information, we slowly give it to them over the course of several encounters as to better ease them into the play.
So aside from these new pop-ups and funneling the new players, we also have the More Info button. Could you perhaps walk us through that as well?
Right. So the more info button serves as kind of an explainer or a reminder. It's on every page of the shelter menu, on every tab. If you are ever lost and can't remember what this tab does, maybe you came back to Vigor after some time, you can just press the more info button and a pop-up's gonna show up explaining what this page does, what this page of the menu does. So it's really helpful. It's just an accessibility feature, just reminding you what it's for.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you, Sebi. Moving on, we also implemented challenges, not just any changes to challenges in general, but also seasonal challenges. So maybe let's start off with the normal challenges that we already had in the game. Could you tell us how it was improved this time around?
So what we did is we added some new challenges and we rebalanced basically all of them. And the main change is that we basically looked at the rewards for the challenges and we rated all of them. Now they are more fair, they are a bit more generous, and they are scaled correctly with the difficulty of the challenge. A small difference, but that I like a lot, is that we named all of the challenges, and the whole team had a lot of fun with naming all of them and hitting some references in there, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think that that's something that the community even noticed and picked up. They started to laugh a bit about the new challenge names, not in a bad way, but more like they were quite happy that we decided to get creative with it. So that's one interesting tidbit for sure. But now moving on to seasonal challenges.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yes, would you like to tackle this big one, please?
So the idea behind the seasonal challenges was to give more variety to the season players, the veteran players, veteran Outlanders of our community, who want something more to do in the season beside leveling the battle pass. So this is to give them a bit of a challenge, something difficult to do, because these are the most difficult challenges. There's a selection of the most difficult ones. They also pay out bigger rewards because they are more challenging. And if you put in the work and you manage to complete 50 of them, you get special exclusive rewards that are secret until you get them, but they are definitely worth it and they are absolutely exclusive. We are not gonna put these rewards anywhere else. They are not gonna be available in the shop, not in crates, nowhere. And they are gone when the season ends. So this is a sort of badge of honor that, yes, I put in the work. I managed to complete the 50 challenges during the time limit of the season. Now I have this to sport.
All right. Thank you so much for walking us through all of these information about the challenges and seasonal challenges. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Moving on, one of the other things that we promised our players last year was that we would start looking into endgame content. The team tackled many things regarding endgame content, so I was wondering if it would be okay for you to jump into those a bit more as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you say the words endgame, people can imagine different things, right? So I would really put emphasis on the phrase started looking into, because there were multiple discussions internally. We did a lot of brainstorming. Also, there were multiple ideas from the community as well. So it was a lot of planning, coming up with ideas. I think that we already tackled some of the stuff during this year, but we are nowhere near being finished. So what we did this year, I would say, is the weapon overhaul. We definitely kickstarted changes for our weapons. We want to make the gunplay the best experience possible. So with every major update, we changed at least some sort of weapons, and we will proceed with that also during 2023, for example. Another huge part of Endgame for me, and I believe for the community as well, are seasonal challenges. Because this is something that, you know, this keeps you playing. Even though it's not endgame per se, I mean, you won't finish the game by this, you still have something to do each and every season. Obviously, for us with Deliverance, this was the first time where we tried seasonal challenges, so there is a lot of tweaking that we need to do. So it's optimal for all player groups, but it is definitely one of the huge parts of the endgame. Another one is the end of Legacy Seasons. And don't panic just now, let me explain. Because Legacy Seasons have been there for a while, this was something for our players to do when there is no huge season coming or anything. But in the near future, they will basically become obsolete. Because we wanted to come up with a way how new players and players that started later in the game can obtain weapon and consumable plans without having to grind through the whole season. So this was with the Legacy Seasons. So instead, we would really like to give shelter some love and introduce new shelter improvements possibly that would allow players to basically obtain those weapon and consumable plans. So this will be exciting as well. I mean, players have been asking for new shelter improvements for a while, so I think that this will be it.
All right, and more on the shelter improvements and other changes coming for next year will also be discussed in another video. So hopefully we'll get to jump in on that as well later on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking forward to it because even last year we did the Future of Vigor video, where we at least tried to mention what stuff we would like to tackle during 2022. So I'm looking forward to the video for 2023. And yeah, I will see you guys in that one, I guess.
All right, so that's about it from us. We are planning on publishing another video on what you can look forward to in 2023. So hopefully you'll stick around to watch how it goes as well. Keep an eye out on our socials for any news, and we'll see you in the Outlands.